giving up your time to log in this evening. Look, again, Sean already alluded to it, but look, my apologies. Most of my philosophy and thinking would be around football, so that's the way my brain works. So look, again, as Sean has said, this is transferable to hurling as well. So, but look, most of it will be through Gaelic football. So look, we're going to look at how we can influence the type of player that graduates out of our underage teams into our adult teams, and we're going to explore that should we be taking responsibility or more responsibility regards the type of player that comes through into our adult teams. Look, the first part of the presentation, we'll be looking at should we take responsibility, why we should take that responsibility, who should take that responsibility. In the second part, we'll be looking at what type of player should we be looking for, okay? And the most important word there is for, okay? I'll be using some videos to show good examples of good team play, good decision making. As a footballer, a big part of my philosophy or a big part of my belief in Gaelic football is if you have good decision makers, that has a huge knock-on effect as regards the quality of play that your team have, okay? Every action has an equal reaction, every yin has a yang. So if you've got a really talented bunch of individual players, but they're not great team players or not great decision makers, then what you have is a team that's very good individually. If you can marry that with good decision makers, then you've got a really, really good team. If you've got a team that's maybe a bit deficient in athletic or physical skills, if they're good decision makers, that can go a long way towards neutralizing some of that deficiency, okay? And then in the last part, then we look at how we use small-sided games and condition games to develop the type of skills that we think we want our players to have, okay? So look, I'm just going to show a few clips first to start off, and we'll come back to these later on, and we'll look at it more in depth as regards good decision-making skills and poor decision-making skills.
And the scramble for tickets for this began on Monday. Serious Aidan O'Shea. Mayo playing for the fourth week in a row. Fitness may fatigue could be an issue, but not for now. Here's Donald Mullen. And he is fouled. It takes over them immediately. He has to back Donald Mullen. Loads of movement ahead of him. He still has it under real pressure from Cameron White. And Mullen going from one side of the field to the other, and the ball is turned over. It's open in the defence, and eventually, if we keep giving Stephen a break, all in that position, he will do that. Trailing by 12 points to 4. Mike Horning, Shane Enright. Again, Kerry Corwin's out in front of their markers. That's Sean O'Shea in front of Lee Keegan. The umpire steps. I think he's going to reach for the white flag. Yes, he does. He retains his composure. 6th in a row for Kerry. They're scoring. Major surgery needed on that takedown strategy before the second half. One thing you wouldn't question with me was the resilience, so sure. And they've shown that to them what was advantage been played as Mullen surges forward. Right down the middle, but Morley is across to him. They need a score from this. Darren Cohen just put the right boot through that, and that's much needed. It's the first.
Have a plan in place that can to affect decision making, how we move the ball into. Okay, guys, look, there's some video clips there that I'll be coming back to later on. And they're nearly all based around team play and decision making, how we move the ball into scoring positions. Okay, there were some good examples there and some poor examples, but look, that'll be later on towards the presentation. Okay, so look, building your adult player. Okay, so how do we do things in our club? Have we got a plan in place so do we have a plan in place that can to affect our younger players in a positive way so that we can influence the type of player that will eventually populate our adult teams, okay? Or are we a club that just wing it? We've been successful in the 60s, we were again successful in the late 70s, then we had a bit of a down period, we came back again in the 90s, and we're going through another kind of a down period. So do we just let things happen? or do we actually take charge of trying to influence the type of players that come through into our adult team? Okay. Okay, so the aim of this webinar is to explore how we can use conditioned, small-sided and modified games to design a club session plan for each team that will influence the type of player that graduates into our adult teams, and therefore the type of adult teams that we have within our club. Okay, so the areas we're going to explore: do we understand what to look for in a player so that we can confidently design a competent coaching plan for all ages. So before we go designing a plan for our players, do we know what we're looking for in a player? Okay, so is it fair to say if you don't know what you're looking for in a player, then you don't know what you're looking at when you're looking at a game or a training session? Okay, we're going to look at how to design games that develop the technical, the tactical, and the team play skills that are required to play Gaelic games. The tools coaches can use to isolate a skill. Okay, because isolating a skill will equal repetition. Later on, we'll be looking at games and drills. Okay, so if we can isolate a skill so that there's maximum repetition of that skill for each player, then over time players will learn to develop those skills. Okay, who will take ownership of overseeing the design and the implementation of a coaching plan if that's what our club decides to go down the road? Who else should be involved in the designing of that coaching plan? Okay, so what I'm going to do, guys, is just ask a question here if I can get this. Okay, so guys, can you just find out what kind of coaches we have on in this evening? So if you are a child coach, will you please select A? If you're a youth coach, please select B. If you're an adult coach, please select C. If you're a child and a youth, you can check D, or if you're a youth and an adult, you can select D. Okay. Competencies: by challenging and assisting both the player and themselves to reach their full potential. Okay, so the fact that you're out here tonight, you're challenging yourself and assisting yourself to upskill yourself. But our job when we take a team is to make our players more skillful. Now, obviously, depending on the age group, the skills will vary. But really what we're trying to do is get a player from A at the start of the year down to the end of the year with better skills, because we've got to hand those players over to another group of management next year, or some of them. So that's our job, to try and develop the skills. Okay, so what's your motivation for your player? What's your motivation for your squad? What type of player are you looking for? What type of team are you looking for? And the question maybe a lot of managers don't ask is, what do the players want from us? Okay, your child player, okay, is it going to be fun and enjoyable and challenging? Okay, so we consider a child player from 12s down. So a 6, 7, 8-year-old, in their own head, they're not saying, oh, that was challenging now tonight. But they'll know if it wasn't fun and if it wasn't enjoyable. Okay, your 9, 10, 11, 12-year-old, again, isn't going to say that wasn't challenging, but they'll know if it's too easy. They'll know if it's just right, if it's difficult enough. They're being challenged. There's competition. They're being challenged to improve their skills. So it's enjoyable for them and it's challenging. But in the back of their head, they won't be saying, I'm really looking forward to going down to the field tonight now because it's challenging. Okay, but that's what they're looking for. Your youth and your adult player. Okay, they're going to know by coming to training, they're going to be challenged to improve their skills. They're going to know going to games that they're prepared. Okay. And what you're going to see there, your teenage player, they may not be confident enough to verbally challenge us, but you're going to see disinterested, lack of engagement, maybe a bit of indiscipline if training sessions aren't a challenge. If they're too easy, if there's no opportunity for them to improve, if they're going to games and they don't know in the back of their head, have we the work done? Especially adult players. Have we the work done? Are we ready? Is there nothing more that can be done? It's up to us now. That's what they're looking for in a coach. Okay, so always begin with an end in mind. So, division. What type of player do we want in our club? What type of adult team do you want in our club? How do we achieve this? Who takes ownership of this? Are these questions that our club, your club, are asking themselves? Okay? Or is it just you're in charge of the 14s, you're in charge of the 16s, and that's it? No one comes near you, you're allowed to do what you want? Or the guy below you is not handing over players at a level that you think you should be handing over? So is this a question that's within our club that we're actually asking ourselves? Okay, who else might be involved? So are these questions being answered in the club? So here's a skill set of our adult player. Okay, so we would like our adult players to be bilateral. They can kick off both left and right, solo off their left and right, hand pass off their left and right, and pick up off the left and right. Okay, so a player should have these skills acquired by under 12. Okay, by the time they're leaving under 12, they should have those skills acquired. Technically, hook kick. They got a good. Can they do a hook kick? Can they do a hand pass, catching, near hand tackle, block down? Can they do a solo or a dummy solo, pick up, bounce, punt in a game situation? Can they do those skills consistently and competently at both feet in a match situation? They should be able to do that by under 14. Is your player a good decision maker? He or she plays with their head up all the time, not sometime, all the time. Can they move the ball in one step? Okay, so for a Gaelic footballer, to be able to move the ball in one step, you need to be able to use your left and right. You need to get your head up because that means you can see the field and you can make a decision. So can your players move the ball in one step? If you can, if they play with their head up, now you've got a player that can now play part of a team. Can you get 15 of them? That's the next challenge. Is there good team play? Okay, so are they flexible? Can they play in the backs? Can you play them in the forwards? Can you play them on the right side of your team? Can you play them on the left side of your team? Do they bring teammates into the game? Do they understand how to manipulate space and to manipulate an opponent so that they can synchronize and time and anticipate the timing of runs so that your team now can play together? So that you've got 2, 3, 4 players that can synchronize and time their runs so you can move the ball the length of the field and create a scoring chance. Can you do the same when the opposition are in possession? Have you got a player that takes the best option all the time? Okay. Players should have acquired these, regardless whether you're a big club or a small club. Your players should have these skills acquired. Your movement skills. Have you got good agility? Have you got evasion to step off your left and off your right? Your running and your speed and your stamina, your jumping, your strength, your power. Okay, some of those will be coming in your teenage years, but your agility and your evasion, this is where your under 6 coach and your club school league plays a huge part. These are skills that should be acquired at a really, really young age. Do your players when they're in possession, they can shift their weight from their left to their right. If they're marking a player who has good agility, can they match that footwork? Okay, can they do it at speed? Okay. Confidence, okay, and I said I've marked down here players should have these skills acquired by under 18 because at this stage now they're starting to come into their own. They're starting to be able to stand up for themselves. So have they got a good temperament? Are they composed? Are they reliable? Okay, and players that have the skills left and right, good kickers, good catchers, good decision makers, over time in their teenage years will start to gain confidence in the skills that they have. That in turn will develop players that are composed, they're calm, they've been involved in the winning of matches, so their confidence is starting to go. They've got good temperament, regardless of the situation of the game. It doesn't become emotional for them. It's all about the skills. Okay, these are players that will decide the outcome of games for you. Okay, and then the psychological part of it, the penny is dropped. And what I mean by that is the player now starts to understand, I've got talent. I have ability. I stand out from my teammates. They start to set their own standards. And by that I mean they start to do extra training. Okay, they start to become more demanding of themselves, and you're starting to get a player as a leader. And I don't mean by a leader, I don't mean someone who stands up in the middle of the dressing room and starts making speeches. I mean someone who's has to devote themselves to the game, brings others along with them. Okay, so these are the skills that we should be looking at players to have. Okay, and the big ones for me are decision makers and team play, because they impact how the game is played. Okay, these skills down here are technical and your bilateral skills. They're individual skills. Okay, and you can be a really good individual player, but are you a team player? Do you make good decisions? Do you make your team better? Can you get 15 players that can play together and become a good team? And that's what we're looking for in our adult player at the very end. How do we achieve this? Okay, so this is something I came across in one of the national papers there when Kilkenny were on there, and I suppose their period of dominance. Okay, and I think it sums up really, really well what a club should be, how a club should approach influencing what comes out of our underage players. Okay, so Brian Cody, I see training as a centre of excellence, a place where the player must experience everything, the intensity and the skill level that you're going to experience in Croke Park. A match is only something where you put into practice what you've already done on the training field. Okay, now in the video clips we're looking at inter-county players where you're the club coach, but unfortunately I don't have video clips of club matches. But the same thing applies here. So what Brian Cody is saying is, so look, for us as coaches, even though we understand that children and teenagers are not small adults and therefore they shouldn't be treated as such, however, the message remains the same. A player, whether they're a child, a teenager, can only bring the technical, that player can only bring the technical, the team playing, the decision making and the movement skills they acquire at the training pitch to bear in a match. Okay, so really what happens at the training pitch is just as important as what happens in a match. They're the skills that they transfer into a game situation. Yes, you'll have a really talented individual player technically, intelligence wise, but can we get 15 of them? Can we get 15 of them into our adult team? Can we have a good team played under 14, 16 and minor? So whatever happens at training, that has the ultimate bearing in it. You link that to what happens in matches. So what we're going to look at is the planning of a coaching program, mapping out our season, planning our sessions. Why have one? Okay. Well, look, as Brian Cody says, he has valued what happens in training, not only how he picks the team and who's going well, but the intensity and the skills that they're going to need. That's what happens. It happens in training. So if training is so important, we as a club should treat it as such. Are we just running sessions? And what I mean by that is, are we running lovely little games for the hour or drills, but they have no function when it comes to transfer for the player to transfer what he's done in that session into a match. The game looks lovely, and they all seem to be engaged, but does it have any function come game day? I'll give you a classic example. We, in my own club, used to have a lot of what I would consider 10v10, 12v12, even bigger in a size of a pitch that wouldn't even be five-a-side soccer. Okay, so there was a lot of confrontation, a lot of banging, a lot of hitting, but no room whatsoever for skill development. And amazingly, the players just loved this, absolutely love it. They could do it 20 minutes and there wouldn't even be a question asked, can we go on to something else? Okay, but none of that could transfer to a game because the game isn't played in a five-a-side 12v12, 14v14. Okay, so are we just running training sessions that look good, get through the hour, or are we delivering our training sessions with a specific aim, a specific goal, a specific purpose to develop a particular skill in a player, whether it be an individual skill, a team play skill? Are we delivering training sessions that are progressive? Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday morning, Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday morning over a season. Have we got a plan in place for what type of player we want at the end of the year, at the end of next year, at the end of two, at the end of minor? So have we got our sessions that have got a goal, a purpose, and an aim? Are we persistent and are we consistent in trying to develop those skills? Okay. So there are games that players will love, but they don't serve any function. And sometimes they have a place in our training sessions. But are we running or are we delivering training sessions? Um, as a management team, you're dependent on the group below. So if you're fortunate, if the management below you are delivering really good training sessions and delivering a high quality player, the opposite could happen. Just could also happen. Are players coming through to you where you have got to what you'd feel go back and work on skills that they should have done the previous 2 years, or even further back? Okay. Is it hit and miss with the quality of coaching sessions? Okay, you've got a good quality coach. They're doing good work. Okay, that kind of ties into the last point. Our coaches' needs being met. Okay, so a lot of coaches are putting their hands up and saying, "Yeah, I'll take that team," and they're being left to their own devices. Okay, and the club are turning their back on them. Okay, these are coaches that need help, they need assistance. Is there a coaching plan where there are practical training sessions that are mapped out, designed by the club, where you can say, okay, here's Tuesday's session, here's Thursdays, here's next Sunday mornings, here's next Thursdays, here's next Thursdays, next. So that the coach is coming down with this done. Okay, they're not coming down having to make it up. They're not coming down thinking on the spot, and they're not having to spend a huge amount of time devoted to planning training sessions, because the club have taken that responsibility off them and designed these training sessions. Okay. Guys, I have a question there. Okay, look, if you can just type it into the chat box below. So look, if your club decides to go down the road of planning a coaching program where the season is planned out, the sessions are planned out, the age groups are planned out, who do you think should take responsibility within your club for that? So designing a coaching program for all the teams within your club. So if you can just type it into the chat box, your answer, please. Club decides to go down the road of designing a coaching plan for the nursery, the 8s, the 10s, the 12s, 14s, 16s, minor, so we can have a plan and practical coaching sessions that coaches can adhere to. So what type of an adult player are we looking for in our club? Okay, and the big word there is for. Okay, and I've mentioned before, if we don't have an idea of what we're looking for, then we can't design a program to meet those needs, or to try and meet the skills that player will require. Okay, so in the majority of clubs, whether it's an inter-county team, a senior club team, or intermediate or a junior, okay, the majority of your players are by and large equal with their contemporaries at that grade. And what I mean by that is the physical and athletic traits are equal. Okay, you may have an inter-county team like Dublin that are vastly superior, but by and large at inter-county level, the top 8 or 9, 10 counties in the country, they're all physically and athletically the same. Your intermediate club teams, they're all physically athletic, nearly all the same, most of them. Same with the junior, same with your senior teams. They're as committed or as uncommitted as one another. They're enthusiastic. Okay, I think players are always enthusiastic to come to training, to give it their all. You don't see them shirking in games, pulling out, and they try really hard. They try really hard in games. So if they're all equal or in and around the same, what separates them? What separates our players? What separates our teams? Okay, so have we got an adult player that's useful to the manager, whatever the game plan? Okay, and in particularly in the county level these days, the game has completely changed. Particularly in football, you've got mass defences. You have games now where you have anything from 15 hand passes to 1 kick pass. Okay, so if your manager wants to play that kind of restrictive game, does he have the players that can adapt to that? Okay, if he has players that are not flexible, and maybe the only choice he has is to go down that road of playing a restrictive game. If he wants to play an expansive game, does he have the players at his disposal that allows him to go do that? So are adult players flexible? Can they play multiple positions? Can they play on both sides? Can they play left and right team, in the forwards, in the backs? Can they make a positive contribution? And what I mean by that is, when that player is in possession, is he a good decision maker? Is he technically competent? Is he a good team player? When a teammate is in possession, is that player a good team player? Can he make good decisions to help the player in possession? Good timing of runs, anticipating of runs. And we'll talk about, sometimes it's just about not going or not making a particular run. When the opposition is in possession, is he a good player? Can he dispossess him? Can he be a player who's constantly in the face with a near hand tackle, staying goal side, shining away from goals? When the opposition are in possession, is he a good decision maker? Can he get back and help? Can he cover off the areas that need to be covered up? Can he read runs? Okay, so what we're looking for is, can that player, can that team play whatever's in front of them? Can they express themselves? So whatever the conditions in the game is going against us, we got players that can take hold of that game and change the game in our favour. If someone is playing with mass defence, can we deal with that? Okay. If there's space to attack, can we exploit that? Okay. And a classic example of this would have been the Kerry Donegal All-Ireland final a number of years back. Okay, Donegal played Dublin in the semi-final. Dublin were 7-2 up. And the Donegal tactic, regardless of the time, regardless of what was left in the game, regardless of the score, was to bring you into their defence. Okay, to try and bring the opposition to push up, to come in, turn it over, and hit them quickly on the break. And Dublin were 7-2 up. And all Dublin needed to do was just keep tipping over points. At 7-2, they got two reasonable goal chances and went for goals and missed them. Okay, so instead of being 9-2 up and putting a big distance between them, they went 7-2. And in the second half, Donegal hit them, particularly on a few kickouts, straight down the middle, 1-2, and scored goals. In the All-Ireland final, then Kerry did not go into that trap that Donegal were going to set. They just played around, went around the halfway, or sorry, the 45-metre line, into one corner, back out, back into the other corner, back out, and tried to work a score. Okay, then they got the goal from the poor kick out. But Donegal stayed in that game plan right up until 4 or 5 minutes to go, and then came out to try and claw the game back. But Kerry understood what the Donegal tactic was, and they had the skills to play around with it. They had the game intelligence, and they had the technical ability to understand, no, we're not going into that now. That's what Donegal are looking for us to do. Okay, so do you have players that can make decisions on the field, that can see what's in front of them and play it? Okay, so the challenge for us is, are our adult players just bigger, faster, stronger versions of what they were at 10, 11, 12, 13, 14? They're just gone through a growth spurt, they put on muscle, they're now faster, they spend more time training. They're the same players they were when they were 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Equally, are they as deficient in the skills that they were at 10, 11, 12, 13? They're one-sided players. They play with their head down. Their first option is to carry the ball. They run up on top of teammates, and we look at a few examples in that in a while. They have no understanding of exploiting space, how to manipulate a defender so that you can give the player in possession a clear pass to you. Do they run out the field to meet the ball rather than making runs left and right and 5 yards in front, 5 yards back? Okay. So if the player that comes into our adult team is just a bigger, faster, stronger version of what they were at those particular ages, then we failed them. We haven't developed the skills necessary to go on and for them to develop to be well-rounded players and to help our adult team. Okay, so coaching plan. So we're looking at a coaching plan. Let's design it January, February. Let's implement it when our teams get up and running. Okay, usually it's February, March, whether it's underage or adults, get up and running. If it needs to be adjusted during the middle of the season, adjust it. And when it's all over, when the competitions are all over, evaluate and start again. Okay, so I've asked whose responsibility is, and everyone has the right answer. It's your coaching officer. Now, not completely your coaching officer, but your coaching officer is the most important person in the club now as regards from minor down and the skills that players need to acquire. Okay. So there needs to be a coaching committee. So it's the responsibility of a coaching officer to grab hold of this, take responsibility, form this committee, and then put a coaching plan in place with selected coaches, selected managers from within the club. And every club has good coaches that can come in and help design this. Okay, it can be a coach, the manager from each particular team. Okay, that can come in and form this committee, and they design the coaching plan for the club. But it's usually important that the chairman recognises this. Okay, because without the chairman's recognition of this, and even with the chairman's recognition, there may be resistance within clubs. Okay, because traditionally what's happened here is I've had the 12s. I'm going to follow them up to minors. They're my team. They're my lads. You know, you look after your own corner. I look after my corner. Even if I'm a good coach, that has been the traditional way within our clubs. Okay, so you may meet resistance from a particular management team or particular management. No, I'm not advocating that we get confrontational as we start fighting within our clubs, or we start removing people, because there isn't a whole lot of people lining up to take these jobs. So, but if the chairman recognises this, then it has authority within the club. Okay, so that's the committee, and they're the people that should be designing a plan. Okay, so you got your season structures, you got your pre-season, whether there's 8s, 10s, we're doing skill development, we do a bit of conditioning with our junior or youth and senior teams, ball handling skills, we got our internal blitzes, we got our challenge games, then we're into the season, weekly training sessions depending on the age group, Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday morning, maybe one night a week for our 8s, our nursery maybe 2 for 10s and 12s. Okay. What's the purpose of our training session? What's the goal? What's the aim of what we're trying to achieve? Particularly with youth and adult teams, you're going to meet different opposition with different types of play. Can we adjust to that? Do they have the skills to be able to do it? Is there progression in what we're doing? Are we looking at what we're doing and seeing that's working, that's not working? You know, and you can change that in season. And what is it laid out? Do we sit down with I'll take our under 10s. Do we sit down and say, right, guys, we're starting back in March. There are 6 county organised blitzes. These are the dates. We're going to these. We want to have 2 more blitzes where we invite clubs to come to us. We want to go to 2 other blitzes. We're going to pick out the dates. These are the dates. We're going to give it out to the management team in a sheet. These are the dates of the blitzes. We're going to Mallow on the 10th of October. That's the last blitz for the under 10s. That's a provincial blitz. We have 6 blitzes in the county. We're going down to Tarbert in September for the North Kerry West Clare under 10 blitz. So you now know what your 10 blitzes are for the year. We've decided that the 10s are going to train Tuesday and Thursday night. Blitz maybe on a Saturday. Some Saturdays they won't have any blitzes. There's communion and stuff like that. But this is your program laid out. You know the dates now. Say to your under 14s. Are we going to start back training 4 weeks before the championship starts? Round 1, round 2, round 3 or 4. We know the dates. Tuesday, Thursday, 7 o'clock, below in the field. Okay. Your session structure. Okay. Your warm-ups. Gaelic 15. That's the new GA best practice warm-up for Gaelic 15. Do your coaches understand dynamic warm-ups, static warm-ups? Can they do good ball warm-ups? Player targets. They're good technically. They're good decision makers, team play, and we got feedback from our coach to our players and vice versa. How are we going to do this? How are we going to meet these needs here? Condition games, modified games, positional games. Okay, we do full games for your 10s and 8s go games. Maybe there's a bit of video analysis. Okay, but the big thing is whatever the plan is and whatever we've decided on and whatever program, we have to be persistent. We have to stay consistent at what we're doing. Players will not develop these skills overnight. And it's very easy to say, okay, we're doing a game, it's not working, they're finding it too hard. Now look, forget about it. We go back to what we did before, the drills. We go back to playing backs and forwards. Or look, we have enough here. We have 12v12. We'll move out to small goals and we just play 12v12 and let them at it. Okay. Once you've decided what type of player you want, you have to stay at that. Stay at that for the full year. Come back at the end of the year. Look at it. If there's changes need to be made, there you make changes. But we're not going to influence the type of player that comes out of into our adult teams if we just throw it away after 1 or 2 training sessions because it's too hard, it doesn't work. Okay. Okay, so we understand what type of player we want, what type of teams we want. We'll stick to this plan. Okay. Has each grade got a plan? Is it progressive? We're handing the 10s over to the 12s. They need to have these skills. Are they all aligned? Okay, it's all the way up. So, as I said, your coaching committee, they agree the plans for the nursery, the 10s, the 12s, the 14s, the 16s, the minor. Coaches, youth players, child players go into that plan. And what we get out the other side and after we stay with this plan. So if we have a player coming from nursery and under 8s all the way up, what we're going to get with this plan is you're going to get authority. Your coaching officer is going to get authority within the club. And what I mean by that is there are coaching officers who are appointed because no one will take the role. There are coaching officers who want the role, but are there individual managers within this group here that don't recognise them? Okay. And that's why your chairman is so important. Right, this is the decision the club have taken. Okay, so there's authority for your coaching officer, there's authority for your coaching committee. There's year-on-year strengthening of your coaching plan. Okay, you come back, you look at it, you learn just like a player. The more you go to the field, the better the training, the more your skills develop. This is the very same thing. You look at this at the end of the year, what worked, what didn't work. Okay, we'll change it for next year, but you got to stay at this as well. You got a cohesive coaching plan within your club. There's year-on-year increased knowledge among your coaches and your players. When your coaches are going to the training field and they're confident in what they're delivering, they know what they're delivering is going to improve the skills of their players. You're looking forward. You're looking forward to going down to the field, taking this training session. You're going down half an hour before and getting your things laid out. If you're going down and you don't know what you're doing, you're not confident in what you're doing, okay, that's not a nice thing to be looking forward to. Players can see through that. They know when you've the work done. They know when you've planned out. You get greater respect from your players when the training sessions are planned out. They're designed. They know you put time into it. They know you've invested time in it. They know why you've invested time in it, and it's a challenge. Training sessions are a challenge now. They're not easy. Okay, they're hard. They're difficult. I find myself improving, but the training sessions are difficult. I enjoy going down there. You get increased player skill level. You get a greater buy-in from your player, and that's what I said back in slide 2. Okay. Your teenage player, okay, and your adult player. Your adult player will stick his chest out and demand of you. Your teenage player may not, but they want to know coming to training. It's going to be a challenge. I'm going to improve my skills. They want to know going to games that they're getting better, that they're prepared for matches. So if you've got a plan, and that plan will take time to develop. This is in year 2, year 3, year 4, where your coaches really start to see the difference and once they start making changes, once they become more upskilled themselves, once the coaching committee become more upskilled and they start to put in more challenging coaching sessions, you'll really start to see a benefit, okay? You get more rounded individuals. And I spoke about players that are they're composed, they're calm, they got a good demeanour. When we have the skills and when we know our team have the skills and when we know we can influence the outcome of games, you get more rounded individuals too. They're calmer, they're more composed. It's not about emotion. It's not about it's not just about physicality or confrontation. Okay, and the big thing here is your adult team will become visible learning for the next generation. We see it like at intercounty level. We see Kerry, generation after generation after generation, all playing the same way. That's the way they play at club level. Their adult team are actually training their younger teams because that's what they see, that's what they hear all the time. Okay, at underage level, you may have 2 clubs near one another, but 8, 10s, and 12s the only thing they know about the next parish is the next parish. They're only interested in their own parish. So when they're going out to the field behind the goals, kicking out the ball or pucking out the ball, that's what they see, and they copy that. Okay, so look, we've looked at should we take control of our underage structures and the type of player coming through, why we should do it, the benefits of doing it, who should be in charge of it, okay, and how we looking at the structure around a season, a pathway for a season, sessions, and that has to be put down on hard copy. That has to be put down on a document so that you can hand out and say. Otherwise, it's just verbal, and no one can come back to it. Okay. Now we're going to do how we do it. How do we influence the type of player that comes through our teams? Okay, and this is the real enjoyable part about coaching. Okay, so look, anyone my particular age, and I'm 50 years of age, is going to be able to recognize a lot of the stuff down here. Okay. So drills. So you can see down here, these are all the fancy drills we would have grown up with. If you can, this one is particular, brings back a lot of memories for me. Crisscross hand pass. Okay, 30 seconds, guys. No ball on the ground. If I see a ball on the ground, we're going to go for another 30 seconds. Fellas crashing into each other in the middle. Okay, and then you get a few later on. We get a few really complex ones. Okay. 8 players crisscrossing. If you can do that, you're going to be a really good footballer. Okay, so we're going to look at drills. We're going to look at the pros and the cons of drills. Okay, so the pros of a drill is repetition. You can isolate a particular skill. The success, particularly for a child. Okay, you may have a child that when you put them into the game, they struggle. They can't solo and run at the same time. They may not be able to strike a ball with a hurley. So playing games is not enjoyable for them. There's too much failure. Okay, so going into drills allow them to be successful at their own pace, at their own level. Okay, there's no opposition. Simple routines are easy to follow. There's no opposition in it. There's very little failure. But if we look at the cons, okay, and we're going to talk about decision making, okay, when any one of these drills, they all start on the coach's whistle. Now, the only time you hear the whistle in the match is when there's a free or a throw-in. So when there's games going on, the players are making the decisions. So they're learning the whole time. What did I do that time? What went right? What went wrong? What will I do the next time? Okay? There's no opportunity for you to coach in a drill. And what I mean by that is you're not seeing players who making the wrong runs, timing the wrong runs, running up on top of someone. You're not seeing someone who's in a match making a pass without looking where the ball is going. You're not seeing a player who is talented but is lacking confidence. They don't want to make a decision. They want to take the easiest option all the time. You're not seeing players who tuck the ball up their jersey and do it all on their own. Okay, so there's no opportunity to come in and coach in drills around decision making and team play. Okay, you go when you're told, you go in the direction that you're told, you go to pass the ball to who you're told to pass the ball to, and as we see down here, okay, there's no failure or very little failure, so it's not really challenging. Okay, you don't make the decision making, you're running straight lines. Yet in sports, the game is chaotic. It's in front of you, it's behind you, it's beside you, and in Gaelic football especially, we're teaching players don't run up on top of the ball. Yet from a very early age, all our drills are based running towards one another. So we're squashing the play, we're bringing our marker in with us, and we're reducing the space. So, players run towards each other, they run to a designated spot, passing straight lines, and any one of these drills you could take to be a kicking drill, okay, or out around the cone and kick pass back, out around the cone and puck back. Join the back of the group. So you get really, really good at kicking and pucking a ball a certain distance. You do that Tuesday, Thursday. The following week. And then eventually the coach says, we go out to the 30, and all of a sudden you've got to start learning how to kick an accurate pass, a 30 meter accurate pass in a straight line again. Okay? Game isn't played in straight lines. Boredom, lack of discipline, lack of player engagement. Monkey see, do. You come along, you 10 minutes late, you see the drill, join in the back of the group. A lot of messing, kicking the back of ankles of players. Okay. Games. So cons of games, there can be repeated failure in a game situation if a player is deficient in skills. You may have a player whose movement skills are poor, athletically they're poor, so the teammates just take the ball off them. Okay, it's not enjoyable. But in a game, we can have just as much repetition as we do in the drill. They're game conditions. They're challenging for players. There's player reflection. As I said, what did he do that time? The next time he tries that, no, I'll be ready for it. How did he get out in front of me? Okay, things like that. Opportunity for coaches. There's opportunities for you to come in and coach about timing runs, getting your head up. You need to be both-sided player. Did you see that? What? Things like that. Ask questions from players so that you're engaging in players and they're giving you back the answers, so they're coaching themselves. Players can express themselves. They're learning to understand positions. Builds confidence. It can affect confidence too if, as I said, if there's repeated failure. Highlights honest players. Some players look absolutely fantastic in the drill. Great technical ability, very athletic. But in a match situation, the game can pass them by. The opposite is also true of players that may not look pretty in a drill, but when you put them on a field, they're really effective. There's more training time devoted to games. Okay, you spend less time doing drills, more time doing games. And I'm going to show something here. So I gotta come out of this.
Place two poles at either end to form goals. Divide the players into equal teams. There are no goalkeepers. The objective of the game is to score goals against the other team. Only the fist pass can be used to pass the ball and score.
Apologies, lads. I think we're having trouble getting John back in. So he's after emailing me on the remaining of the slide. So I've gone through it a few times with him, and I might just take over. And if John comes in, he'll be able to rejoin with us then from there. So look, I suppose before the video, he had gone through the pros and cons with regards to games and drills. I know a few of you were on my own one a couple of weeks ago as well, where we looked at the benefits of games and what that brings as in comparison to I suppose what drills bring. But I mean, I know over the past few weeks we have reiterated the benefits of games, but like by no means, and I suppose are we saying that there isn't a place for drills, but what we are saying is in terms of building your players, that games really are the place where that'll be able to be done. What drills allow, as the pro shows, it allows us repetition, it allows us success, it allows us to build confidence in actually doing that skill. But I suppose all the other elements that John was talking about is what we get through games. So the next point, I suppose, condition games are used to isolate a skill by increasing the opportunity for repetition. And what we're saying there, I suppose, is that there are games that we can set up that we're able to use in order to ensure that we get that repetition that players get. But what it is if you get 10 touches of the ball and you're playing, I suppose, a striking game or a kicking game, well, if we minimize the rules down to you must kick the ball or you must strike the ball when you receive it, what that means then is that the 10 times you get the ball, you're going to practice kicking that ball under pressure or striking that ball under pressure. Where the more I suppose flexible we are in terms of the games, where if we allow for hand passing plus kicking and areas like that, it might reduce the amount of times that the less confident player is in trying to do that. So there is a way of isolating skills even within our games, I suppose, in order to make sure we get that repetition to enhance that player's ability. I suppose every time we introduce a condition to isolate a skill, another skill suffers. And I suppose what we're saying there is that because we're restricting the game to just that skill, there will be an offset against other skills, but there are opportunities for us to develop them as well in other games that we play. So, see the problem, you've solved it, how to isolate it, okay? And I suppose, as I said, John is coming in his area, so all skills down here, the technical skills will be from a football point of view, so the hook kick, punt kick, ground kick, the different ways that we can catch, body, reach, overheads, solo, left and right, dummy solos, hand passes left and right, fist passes, open passes, and our pickups. And are we able to do all these technical skills? So if we see a problem in the game with regards to any of our technical skills, there's no reason why we can't stop that game, isolate it, work on it, and then get back into the game and see, can we improve them going forward? Okay, so with children, when using conditioned or small-sided games, children will learn anything that they are taught. All right, and I suppose that comes to our coaching point of views, and the more that we work with children, the more that we actually coach the child in how to conduct that skill that we're working on, the more that they'll improve throughout it. Yeah, so the solutions to where the deficiencies are that we isolate the skill for maximum repetitions. So the thing is so eliminates one or many options. Okay, so no hand passing, obviously, in the game, eliminates hand passing altogether out of it. Okay, can't eliminate a decision. So you can't do this or you can't do that means that we're making it rigid in terms of what way we want the players to react. Or might give them two options. Okay, so you must have 3 kick passes in a row, or else you can have for every 2 kick passes you can have a hand pass. So there's an offset there. Must has to perform. So if we put in a rule where there's a must, and I suppose this is where we're talking about the language of the coaches with regards to how we do things and how we conduct ourselves. So if we say you must, well, that's a rule that has to be carried out within our games. Okay, and always have that carrot there, so the rewards help win. Okay, the stick obviously is the other side of things, where you must do it, or else the old-fashioned way is we go on laps, or we spend another 3 minutes doing the same thing, or something like that. So games conditions. Okay, so as we said, in terms of kicking, no hop, hand pass or solo, means that we can work specifically on just kicking. And bringing it back to the previous slide and isolating the skill, the word no means all of a sudden we're eliminating all the other options that they have, which is forcing them to kick on their every time they get the ball, as opposed to hop it or solo it. Okay, so if we're weak on it, I suppose they're the points that we can put in. Then with regards to a carrot, so what can we do to entice our players to work on this? Well, the carrot is points scored with the weaker foot. So every time you kick the ball with your weaker foot, you get 2 points or 3 points against a singular point maybe that you get when you're kicking with your stronger foot. Catching, so must be a kick pass. So all of a sudden we're working on catching, but that word must is in there, which means that we're now saying how they must perform the skill in order for the next player to be able to catch it, or there must be 10 meters between each of the players for you to get a score through that catch. So our language again is dictating, I suppose, the way that the game is played. And the carrot, again, more points for the more difficulty. So 10-yard pass, you get 2 points. 5-yard hand pass, it's a 1 point. But all the time you're encouraging and you're scoring, they're catching, but you're given greater points to the greater difficulty of the task that they're trying. The solo, so must take X number of solos before they can release the ball. Okay, so if we want them to practice soloing, we must encourage them to solo. So a game where you must solo the ball 4 times before you release it means that now that even if they're not confident, they must try this under pressure in a game situation and help them to develop. Even if the ball, I suppose, is taken off them after 2 solos, well, that's still 2 solos more that they have done than what they would have done if that must rule isn't in there. Okay. And then we have hand pass if we want to work in it. So there's no hop, no solo, no kick. Means it's just a hand pass game all the time. And again, we're looking at that carrot approach all the time. How can we entice the players in order to continue the game that they're doing and to work on that isolated skills maybe that we're trying to get them to work on? Okay. So see the picture. So you've solved it. So we know how to isolate the technical, but how do we isolate that tactical or that team play situations? And what we're looking at, I suppose, is movement. Okay, when to go, when not to go, where to go to, where not to go to, and why do we go there? Is there an understanding as to why a player is being asked to run into a certain situation, or they're being told that it's not the right decision to run to another avenue? And they know, do they know who to pass the ball to? Okay, can they get their head up? Can they get the support decisions correct? When to release the ball, who to release the ball to? Okay, the 1-step pass left and right, are they able for that? What skill to use in order to get the maximum benefit out of the decision that they're making? Is it a kick pass? Okay. Is it a hand pass? Is it to solo the ball on? Is it to maintain position? Do they know what to do in order to get the benefit? And team play skills in possession. So again, we're looking at their kicking, we're looking at their hand passing, and we're looking at them being able to gain possession, synchronizations, players working together to move the balance. Okay. And again, just looking at children, so what we're looking at from the children's point of view is when using our conditioned and small-sided games, they'll learn anything that they're taught. So the same thing again is implying that we were implying in the last slide around technical. Okay. So we're looking for solutions. So number of elements. Okay, do we want to work on one element of play, which might be movement, or do we want to work on a number of elements where we're working on movement plus decision making in terms of who to pass it to, plus what to pass it to, or where to pass it to, and bringing in our support runners and that. So we can set up games, I suppose, that can work on 1, 2, or all of these collectively. Okay, but we can't eliminate a decision out of a game, and that's the biggest learning point. Okay, or there's only 2 options, as we said. Okay, must and carrot. So the same as the last time, and what we're looking at from a game point of view. So looking for possession, how do we build it? Well, movement that helps the team play, can pass in some channels. So I suppose there's games there, and John had a very good one, unfortunately, that I can't show you, but literally it starts with 3 channels on the field that we're playing on, and that the players aren't allowed to basically pass the ball within the same channel. So instead of that idea, as John was talking about earlier, where we're coaching our players to come to the ball, to receive it all the time, and crowding and impacting on what they're able to do next, all of a sudden that ball isn't allowed to be released into the same channel. So now we're developing we're developing the players in possessions, I suppose, ability to be able to look up, get their head up, and get a pass out of the area they're in into the next area or the third area only. So it's a 3-lane game, if you can picture it, and literally you're asking the players that when you receive it, the one rule that we're putting in there is not, and that is you cannot pass the ball into your same area. So you can hand pass it out, you can kick it out, but what we're doing is we're getting the players used to running, looking for the ball, making space in the lanes that they're in, because all of a sudden they can't come in and look for that short ball or easy ball. Okay. So this will help us in terms of creating scoring chances, because the movement obviously that we get out of them within the forwards can be transferred into our match situation, where all of a sudden we're trying to create that space to get our forwards into a situation where maybe they're one-on-one, or maybe even they have a few yards bought for themselves, where they receive possession and all of a sudden the chance is on for them. Okay. So again, these are just some more rules that we can put in, and the more that we put in, I suppose will dictate how the game goes. Okay. So we're looking at the team play skills, we're looking at left and right of them, we're looking at heads up, we're looking at the one-step pass, everything I suppose that we've gone through in the last slide or two. And then again, look, what is a game, and there's a number of things down here, I suppose, that come in terms of a game. Okay, and what does a game offer us? And what it offers us, it offers us rules. Okay, so a situation where players have to play to a number of rules. Okay, there's players involved, there's scoring involved, there's winning and losing. Okay, so we're learning the lessons, how to deal with winning, how to deal with losing. Okay, there's skills involved, team play, decision making, there's success and failure, confidence, there's equipment. All right, so if we want to play smaller sided games, we're going to need equipment. It could be slalom poles if we want to play the 4-goal game or anything like that, but equipment is going to be needed. Okay, there's a playing area needed, and there's teammates needed. So and the one thing I suppose that we're trying to get across is, in some situations players will tell you it's not a game unless it's your 5-a-side, goal to goal, we attack and we score, we attack and we score. But like, it can be a game even in the situations where if you're working on fist passing and you have 4 goals laid out and the ball must be fisted through that goals in order to score, well then there's still a score there, there's 2 teams still on the field, they're still playing. So it is a game, and it's about us as coaches, I suppose, getting that psychology into our players from when they're children and youths, that look, this is how we develop you as players. This is how we develop our fist passes in a game situation where we're isolating the skill in terms of the fist pass. And the whole rule is, once we get it, we can only release by fist passing and we can only score by fist passing. So all of a sudden, that whole 2-minute or 2.5-minute game maybe that we're playing with them is all concentrated and isolated on that one skill that we're developing. Okay, so there's opposition and then as well in top of it. Okay. What we have here, I suppose, is just different age groups, and we're just looking at maybe a sample session in terms of what will be available at under 10 and under 14. So warm up, okay, the skill is kicking for 8 minutes, then a condition game, then there's a bit of skill in terms of the hand passing, then there's the channel game, and then there's go games when they're finished. So again, very much when we get back to your persistent and your consistent, if you look across, I suppose, the lesson of the sessions in all age groups, we're working on the same things, ensuring that that same message is going to the players day in, day out, so that they're improving in that avenue of it. Okay. And again, look, back to that earlier slide that John went through in terms of the seasonal structure. So look, when is the time to plan? Obviously, during our off season, January, February, you can even maybe add in November, December, depending on when clubs have AGMs and positions are filled in terms of the following year. The implementation then is coming February, March. We're educating all the coaches on what they're expected of at the different age groups and how we're going to handle it as a club. So that makes sure then that we're inside in the season, in the middle of the season. Every team knows their role. Every team is contributing towards the pathway that we want in place. And at the end of the year, then we're able to evaluate, well, how did that pathway work this year? What do we need to tweak for next year? What little things can we change? And we build on it and we go again the following year. And I suppose the biggest thing on it is we're never going to get the answer that we want straight off within a year or two. It is really about a club buying into the whole idea of development, and development is going to take, even if you started it with the 12-year-olds that you have this year, well, look, it's 7 years until they're 19. And it's going to take a cycle, 5, 6, 7 years to be able to build on it. Now, that's to see it come to fruition maybe at under 21 level or at a small bit at adult level, but you will see those steps being taken at under 12, 2 years later at 14, 2 years later at 16, 2 years later at minor. And like, it's about being able to put those little pieces of the jigsaw all together until we have that whole jigsaw filled. And then the big challenge that clubs face is a lot of clubs get to a situation where the jigsaw is filled, they think the work is done, and all of a sudden, 7, 8 years time, when these players start to peter out, I suppose, due to retirements or moving away or different things, all of a sudden the jigsaw falls apart and we're nearly back to square one. So it's about ensuring that even when this comes to fruition, that we make sure that the next generation of players coming behind are being brought into the exact same system. They're coming up, they're working on a club plan, and they're able to contribute when the other lads start to fall off in what would be 15, 20 years time for some of them, as I say, if you started now at 12. But that we always have that constant stream of the player who's able to come in to your club team and able to develop for your club. Okay, and again, it's just re-emphasising, look, failure is acceptable and there will be failure along the way. There will be tweaks that will have to be made to your plans when we evaluate them at the end of the year. But it is very important that top of the club, the chairman, is there to support the coaching officer and his coaching committee to ensure that he can do the job to the best of his ability. So, look, I suppose just from myself, I'd be happy maybe to take, if there are a few questions or anything like that from anybody that's out there at the moment. Unfortunately, John wasn't able to rejoin us, but if there's anything I can help with in terms of what John had gone through before he fell off or any of the last few slides, the public chat box is there now, so feel free to stick in a question if you like. While I'm waiting for that, I suppose I would like to just acknowledge the work that John done in this presentation. He's, I suppose, been working and developing it over a number of weeks, since the one that himself and Michal done a couple of weeks ago. He's really got his teeth into this one, and he's been working very hard to develop. And I don't think the last few slides, I suppose, that I was able to do justice to his own thoughts or thinkings, and unfortunately I don't have access to the videos that he had planned to play, but maybe somewhere down the line we'll be able to build them into a different webinar that we run. It's important, again, I suppose, just to mention, we have Michal Duffy next weekend, and Michal is looking at the fundamental movements and the importance of the fundamental movements in our players' development. So that'll be next Friday evening at 6 p.m. And then the following week, Peter Casey will be following with a workshop on the range of striking, the range of shots, stroke striking in hurling. So look, as I say, if anybody has any questions, by all means, put them into the chat button. If not, again, I'd just like to apologise for the breakdown in communication with John earlier. And I'd just like to thank everybody who tuned in tonight. We hope that obviously you enjoy it and that you found it beneficial. And look, at any stage, if you want to get in contact with us, our own email addresses are always available easily. If you look at any of the Clare GDA sites online or that, you'll find our own email addresses and telephone numbers. So if there's any help, advice or guidance we can give, by all means, we're available to do that. So look, guys, I don't see any questions coming in, but Michael, I will get those assessments as well, and I'll make sure that you have them by early next week. And look, if there's any other help when you receive it that you need, by all means, just give me a ring or a call on it. So look, from my own point of view, lads, thanks very much to everybody who tuned in. A big thank you again to John for all the work and preparation. It's only a pity he didn't get an opportunity to see it through himself. But hopefully we'll see some of you back again in the next few Friday nights as we continue our webinar series. Okay. Thanks very much to everybody, guys, and I hope you have a good weekend and everybody stay safe and well in the coming weeks ahead.